Hi girls, I hope that you have watched the cartoon on Muhammad Basheer's short story Vishwavikyadamaya Mooka. Before going into the analysis of the story, we shall make a reading of the story. I want everyone to turn to page 72 of your textbook in the shade of the Sahyadri. The world renowned nose. It is sensational news. A nose has become a topic of controversy among intellectuals and political thinkers. A world-renowned nose. I record here the true story of that nose. The owner of that world-renowned nose had completed 24 years of age when the story began. No one knew him before that. Does the 24th year in a person's life have any special significance? Who knows? If one looks through the recorded pages of world history, one finds that the 24th year had a significance in many great lives. Students of history need hardly be told this. Basheer starts the story by making a take at the history of historians as well as history. The hero of our story was a cook. A kitchen worker, if you like. He was not particularly intelligent. He could not read and write. His world was confined to the kitchen. He was totally indifferent to happenings outside it. Why should he pay attention to them? He could eat to his satisfaction, take as much snuff as he wanted, sleep, work. His daily routine was confined to these activities. This is how we are introduced to the protagonist of this short story, a simpleton, a poor cook, who was not concerned with anything else outside the kitchen. He did not know the names of the months of the year. When it was time for him to receive his salary, his mother would come and collect it. If he wanted snuff, the old woman herself would buy it for him. He lived a contented life till he reached his 24th year. Then an amazing thing happened, and then we get to know what that amazing thing is. His nose grew slightly in length. It passed his mouth and reached the level of his chin. The nose began to grow in length every day. Was it possible to hide this? Within a month, the nose reached his navel. Did he feel uncomfortable? Not in the least. He could breathe freely. There was no inconvenience worth talking about. So this is the amazing thing that happened to this poor guy. His nose started growing and it performed all the duties and functions of the normal nose. But however, because of his nose, the poor cook was dismissed from his work. What was the reason? It was not because his nose was extraordinary. No group came forward with the battle cry, "Take back the dismissed employee." Political parties shut their eyes to this piece of blatant injustice. So, from this point onwards, we find Basheer making this short story a political satire as well. Why was this man dismissed? No lover of humanity came forward with this query. The poor cook. He was left to starve himself. No one needed to tell him why he had lost his job. The reason was that people living in the house where he worked could find no peace or quiet because of him. People came visiting night and day to see this long-nosed one. Photographers pestered the family, news reporters became a nuisance. A number of things were pilfered from the house. People used to steal things from this house where the cook lived and worked. And he was finally dismissed by that family, and no political parties or any other organizations came to question this. As the dismissed cook sat starving in his lowly hut, he was convinced of one thing: his nose had acquired great publicity. People from distant lands came to see him. They stood stunned with surprise at his long nose. Some touched it too, but no one asked, "Have you eaten today? Why do you look so weak?" There was no money in the hut, not even to buy a small packet of snuff. Was he a wild animal to be kept starving? He might be a fool, but he was a human being. One day he called his mother aside and told her in a whisper, "Get these horrid people out and shut the door." And he was fed up of all these people who came to visit him all day but they never asked him if he was hungry or why he was weak and sad. Nobody thought about that. The mother promptly sent them all out and closed the door. Good fortune came to the mother and son from that day on. People began to bribe the mother to see the son's nose. Some upholders of justice at that point of time started pointing finger at them, saying that you are getting money by exhibiting your son. They started protest against this corruption, but the government did not take any action. Many protested against the inaction of the government and joined revolutionary parties to sabotage the government. The income of the long-nosed one grew day by day. Need one say more? In 6 years, the poor cook became a millionaire. He acted in 3 films. What vast audiences were attracted by the technicolor feature film The Human Submarine. 6 poets wrote epic poems about the noble qualities of the long-nosed one. 9 well-known writers wrote biographies of the long-nosed one and won wealth and acclaim. So people from far and near made money and wealth through this long-nosed one. His princely abode was also a guest house open to all. Anyone at any time could get a meal there and a bit of snuff. He had 2 secretaries, 2 commonly accomplished women. Both of them loved the long-nosed one. Both of them worshipped him. When 2 beautiful women love the same man at the same time, there is bound to be trouble. Troubles came into the life of the long-nosed one, and from this point on we find a twist in the story. Other people also loved the long-nosed one. That long nose reaching down to the navel was considered a sign of greatness. The long-nosed one gave his opinion on important world events. Newspapers published his comments. An aeroplane with a speed of 10,000 miles an hour has been built. The long-nosed one commented on that event. Dr. Bantros Ferroboros has brought a dead man to life. The long-nosed one made the following speech about it. When people heard that highest peak in the world had been scaled, they asked, what does the long-nosed one say about this? If the long-nosed one said something about an event, it was unimportant. The long-nosed one was expected to comment on anything and everything. Art, the watch trade, mesmerism, photography, the soul, publishing houses, the writing of novels, life after death, the conduct of newspapers, hunting, and so on. So here we find the mentality of the mass of people, how they are carried away by the opinion of certain people who make opinions even without knowing that particular thing. It was at this time that conspiracies were hatched to capture the long-nosed one, to capture something. Taking something by physical conquest was nothing new. The major part of world history consists of conquest and captures. Again, the historian Basheer looks into history. What does it mean to capture? Suppose you plant a coconut seedling on a piece of barren land, you water the land and manure it, you fence it in, expectant years slip by, and the trees bear fruit. Coconuts hang in proud clusters from the palms, then someone takes the garden away from you. First of all, it was the government that made an attempt to capture the long-nosed one. They tried a trick. The government awarded him the title Chief of Long-Nosed Ones and gave him a medal. It was the president himself who tied the jeweled gold medal round the neck of the long-nosed one. Then instead of shaking the long-nosed one by the hand, the president took the tip of the long nose. This was filmed by newsreel cameramen and shown in all the theatres, and it became a news. By the time the political parties in the country had come forward enthusiastically, Comrade Long-Nosed One must give leadership to the people's struggle. Comrade Long-Nosed indeed. Whose comrade? Comrade in what? Great God, poor Long-Nosed One. He was not bothered about all these political parties. The long-nosed one must join the party. Which party? There were many parties. How could the long-nosed one join so many different parties at the same time? He was at loss. The long-nosed one said in his own tongue, why should I join a party or parties? Me, I am too tired. He was just a simpleton and he was not bothered about making money or fame by joining a particular political party or so on. Then one of the secretaries said, if Comrade Longnose likes me, he must join my party. She was bribed by, of course, one of the parties. The long-nosed one said nothing to that. Need I join any party? The long-nosed one asked the other secretary. She guessed what he was aiming at. She replied, "Why should you?" By that time, one of the political parties had gone out with the slogan, "Our party is the long-nosed one's party." The long-nosed one's party is the people's party. So that was the trick that they came up with. Members of other parties were incensed by this. They got at one of the secretaries and made her issue a scathing statement against the long-nosed one. The long-nosed one has deceived the people. He has been cheating them all this while. He has made me a partner in this fraud. Let me declare the truth to the public. And here comes the truth. The long nose is made of rubber. What a statement. All the newspapers flash the news on their front pages. The long-nosed one that nose is made of rubber. Would the people keep quiet at this? Would they not react in rage? Cables, telephone calls, and letters came from all parts of the world. The president was allowed no peace or quiet. Destruction to the rubber nose of the long-nosed one. Down with the long-nosed party. Long live revolution. And there were so many problems for this poor guy. When the anti-long-nosed party put out this statement, the opposing party made the other secretary issue a counter-statement. Beloved countrymen, citizens, what she has said is a lie. Comrade Longnose did not love her, and this is her revenge. She was trying to keep for herself the wealth and the good name of Comrade Longnose. One of her brothers is in the opposite party. Let me reveal the true colors of the members of the other party. I am the faithful secretary of Comrade Longnose. I know for a fact that the nose of the comrade is not made of rubber. It is as real as my own heart beating inside me. Long live the members of the party supporting Comrade Longnose at this critical time. They have no motives of gain other than the progress of the people. Long live revolution. So, again, the other secretary comes in. What was to be done? There was confusion in the minds of the people. The leaders of the party against the long-nosed one began finding fault with the president and the government. Stupid government. They gave the title Chief of Long-Nosed Ones to a deceiver of the people. They gave him a jeweled gold medal. The president is also involved in this fraud. They have betrayed the national interest. The president must resign. The ministry must resign. The rubber-nosed one must be killed. So this is how people react. No matter what happens, they always point fingers at the government, at the ministry. The president reacted angrily. One morning, the army and their tanks surrounded the house of the poor long-nosed one. He was arrested and taken away. There was no news of the long-nosed one for some time. The people forgot about his existence. Then came fresh news with the impact of a nuclear bomb. Do you know what happened? Just when the people had forgotten everything, came a brief announcement from the president. The trial of the chief of the long-nosed ones will take place on 9th March. Expert doctors who come as representatives of 48 countries will examine him. All the newspapers of the world will be represented by their respective correspondents. The proceedings will be filmed for all the world to see. The people must keep calm. People are people. They could not keep calm. They came in large numbers into the metropolis. They invaded the hotels. They burned public conveyances. They set fire to police stations. They destroyed government buildings. There were communal riots. Quite a number of men and women died as martyrs in the fight for the long-nosed one. So this is what happens. Basheer is pointing to the futility of rioting against certain things of no importance at all, and the mentality of the populace or the mass. 9th March, 11 a.m., the square in front of the presidential palace was a vast area of humanity. Loudspeakers blared for people must be disciplined. The examination has begun. The doctor surrounded the long-nosed one in the presence of the president, cabinet ministers. One doctor blocked the nostrils of the long-nosed one. He immediately opened his mouth wide. Now the doctor took a needle and punctured the tip of his nose. To his amazement, a drop of blood appeared at the tip of the nose. The doctors gave their unanimous verdict. The nose is not made of rubber, it is genuine. One of the female secretaries kissed the long-nosed one on the tip of the nose. Long live Comrade Longnose. Long live the chief of the long-nosed ones. Long live the Progressive People's Party of the long-nosed one. As this shouting and revelry entered, the president thought of another gimmick. He nominated the long-nosed one as a member of the parliament, the Honorable Long-Nose MP. 3 universities conferred doctorates on him. The Honorable Long-Nosed lit, delit. The ignorant populace acclaimed the actions of the equally ignorant government which ruled over them. So it's clear that it's a political satire against the futility of certain things that happen in our society. But these parties, of which the long-nosed one was not a member, formed a united front and began to proclaim the ministry must resign. This is a fraud on the people. It's a rubber nose. Again, the same story. They went back to the old controversy. Look at the way falsehood was being perpetuated. Would there not be confusion of thought? What could the poor intellectual do? And the story ends. Basheer actually makes the story open-ended. He doesn't take the story to a conclusion, but it is up to us, because there is no conclusion for this situation, and the same scenario will be repeated after a point of time. And I hope you will love reading this short story. I want all of you to read this English translation by V. Abdullah, as well as the Malayalam version, Vishwavikhyatamaya Mooka, because the humor that we find in the Malayalam version is entirely different from the humor that we will find in this, because there are certain things that we miss when this story is being translated into English. So I want all of you to read this English version as well as the Malayalam version. Thank you.